The rain fell hard on the metal walls of the outpost, but Sergeant Varek barely noticed it. His eyes were fixed on the battlefield beyond the energy shield, where distant flashes lit up the horizon. He had fought in dozens of wars across the galaxy, but none of them had prepared him for this. The humans were not like other species he had faced. They did not fight for territory, or for resources, or even for survival alone. They fought as if every battle was personal. Varek remembered the first time he saw them in combat. His unit had been ordered to secure a colony on the edge of the outer rim. The enemy was expected to be a small human militia, lightly armed and poorly trained. Instead, what they found was a force that moved like shadows, struck like storms, and never seemed to tire. The first clash lasted less than 10 minutes, and half his squad was gone before he even understood what was happening. He had seen alien warriors known for their strength, their speed, their strange powers. He had fought against mercenaries who had lived their entire lives for war. But humans were something different. They were clever in ways that made the battlefield unpredictable. They set traps where no traps should be. They attacked when logic said they should retreat. And when they retreated, it was only to hit harder from another angle. The sound of human gunfire was unlike anything Varek had heard before. It was not just noise, it was rhythm, a terrifying pulse that drove fear into even the bravest soldiers. The humans didn't just fire their weapons. They sang their death through the air, in bursts and patterns that seemed almost alive. His commanders told him to adapt. But how do you adapt to something that feels like it was born for war? On the second day of the campaign, Varek's forces tried to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. It should have worked. The alien armies had more soldiers, more ships, more machines. But the humans fought like they were defending their own blood. Every street, every rooftop, every broken wall was a weapon in their hands. Varek saw them leap from high places without fear, charging into fire just to protect a comrade. It didn't make sense to him. No training manual taught that kind of madness. When night fell, the battlefield went silent except for the rain. Varek sat under the ruined arch of a building, his armor dented, his mind racing. He thought of the faces of the soldiers he had lost, and the strange fire in the eyes of the humans. He could not understand it. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. But something about them made every fight against them feel like a fight against the end of the world. He wondered if this was what fear truly felt like. Asterisk. The next morning came with the smell of smoke and the distant sound of human war machines. Varek's unit moved through the ruins, stepping over shattered walls and burned-out vehicles. The humans had vanished from sight, but their presence was everywhere. Strange markings were scratched into walls. Empty ammunition cases lay scattered like seeds. The silence felt wrong, heavy, like a predator waiting in the dark. His commander, General Thark, believed the humans had finally retreated. The plan was simple: push forward before they could regroup. Varek felt uneasy, but orders were orders. They advanced down a narrow street lined with collapsed buildings. It was there that the first explosion ripped through the formation. It was not a random mine, it was placed perfectly to cut them in half. Before the smoke even cleared, human soldiers appeared from hidden positions, firing with precision. Varek barely had time to react. The humans didn't just attack from the front, they came from above, from the sides, even from beneath the rubble. Varek saw one human leap down from a half-destroyed balcony, land on an armored trooper, and disable him in seconds. The alien soldier's strength meant nothing against the speed and precision of the human strikes. And they never fought alone. Each human covered the others, moving like parts of one living organism. Varek fired his weapon, taking down a figure in dark armor. The human fell, but still tried to return fire, even as life drained from him. It shocked Varek. Most warriors he knew gave up when defeat was certain. Humans fought until their bodies refused to move. There was no surrender, no hesitation. He realized then that this was not just training, it was something deeper, something inside their very nature. When the humans finally pulled back, they didn't leave chaos behind, they left traps, delaying the alien advance by hours. Doors were rigged to explode. Paths were blocked with debris. Every step forward cost lives. By the time Varek's unit reached their target, they had lost nearly a third of their numbers. General Thark called it a victory, but to Varek it felt like they had been allowed to win, as if the humans had chosen to let them take this ground for reasons he couldn't understand. That night, Varek sat alone, cleaning the blood and ash from his armor. The rain had returned, pattering softly against the metal. He closed his eyes and saw the faces of the humans he had fought. They were not just soldiers. They were something else, something he could not yet name. And deep inside, he feared the worst, that the real battle had not even started yet. The alien camp was quiet in the early hours, the kind of quiet that made every soldier uneasy. Varek had learned that silence on a human battlefield was never a good sign. He moved between the rows of tents and armored vehicles, watching the sky. Clouds hung low and heavy, carrying the smell of rain and something else, something metallic, sharp and dangerous. It began without warning. The ground shook as explosions ripped through the camp from multiple directions. Human artillery was pounding them from beyond the hills, and their shells landed with terrifying accuracy. Varek dove behind a supply crate as a blast tore apart the vehicle beside him. The air filled with dust, fire, and the screams of the wounded. And then came the sound he feared most, the rapid, coordinated gunfire of human soldiers closing in. They didn't attack in waves. They came in small, fast-moving squads, striking from angles no one expected. Varek saw them vault over barriers, slide under gunfire, and disappear into smoke, only to reappear behind alien lines. Every shot they fired seemed to find its mark. He fired back, but for every human he brought down, two more seemed to take their place. The chaos was complete, yet the humans moved with purpose, as if every move had been planned long before the first shot. Varek caught sight of one of their leaders, a tall human in dark, battered armor, carrying a weapon that roared with each shot. The human gave quick hand signals, and his soldiers moved like water, flowing around resistance, cutting off escape routes. Varek realized they weren't just trying to kill, they were dismantling the alien force piece by piece, breaking their will before breaking their bodies. The fighting lasted less than an hour, but it felt like a lifetime. When the humans finally withdrew, they left the camp in ruins. Supplies were gone, communication lines destroyed, and every surviving alien soldier carried the same haunted look. It wasn't just defeat. It was the knowledge that the humans had controlled every moment of the battle, even their retreat. Varek understood now this was not war as he knew it. This was human war, and it was something entirely different. That night, under the flicker of a dying campfire, Varek tried to rest but couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the human leader's face, calm, focused, and utterly without fear. He wondered how many more like him were out there, and how long his people could survive against an enemy who fought as if losing was never an option. The alien army had been ordered to regroup near the old industrial sector, a maze of steel, towers, and abandoned factories. Command believed the humans would avoid it because of the narrow passages and unstable structures. Varek knew better. If there was one thing he had learned, it was that humans never followed the rules of war that others relied on. They moved in at dawn, setting up defensive positions among the broken buildings. The air was thick with the smell of rust and oil. Shadows stretched across the cracked streets, and the silence felt heavier than usual. Varek stood watch from a high platform, scanning for movement. That's when he saw just a flicker. A shadow darting between two towers. He raised his weapon, but the figure was gone before he could fire. Moments later, the attack began. It wasn't a full assault, it was precision strikes. Humans hit small groups, vanished, then struck again. Somewhere else. They moved too fast for the aliens to regroup, and every hit left them weaker. Varek saw one squad cornered in a side street. Instead of killing them quickly, the humans cut off every exit, trapping them inside. A fire started, and the heat and smoke forced the aliens into the open straight into gunfire. Varek tried to rally his troops, but every order was answered by gunfire from unseen positions. It was as if the humans knew exactly where their leaders stood. Communications were jammed, drones were shot down before they could launch, and every attempt to counterattack ended in disaster. The humans didn't just fight, they erased every advantage the aliens thought they had. By midday, the industrial sector was a death trap. Towers collapsed one after another, either from explosives or from the damage caused by the fighting. The humans controlled the chaos like it was a weapon. Varek realized this wasn't about territory anymore. The humans were teaching them lessons showing that no wall, no shield, and no amount of numbers could protect them if humans decided otherwise. That night, as the surviving soldiers retreated into the outskirts, Varek walked among them. They didn't speak. Their eyes were empty, their hands shaking. For the first time, he saw his people not as warriors, but as prey. And in that moment, he understood the humans weren't just winning battles. They were changing the war itself. The alien forces were scattered and desperate. Orders came to fall back to the last fortified line, a massive trench network reinforced with energy shields and heavy artillery. Command swore that no human attack could break through it. Varek had heard those promises before. He stood in the mud of the outer trench, rain dripping from his helmet, eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the humans would come from. The attack didn't start with a bombardment. It started with silence. The rain stopped, the wind died. And for a moment, the world felt still. Then the ground shook not from artillery, but from something far heavier. Out of the mist came massive human war machines, walking on steel legs, their weapons glowing like the eyes of predators. Behind them, squads of infantry moved with perfect coordination. Using the machines as moving shields, the aliens fired everything they had. Energy blasts lit up the sky, missiles screamed overhead, but the humans kept advancing. Their machines absorbed the hits or moved just enough to avoid the worst of the fire. Varek saw one machine take a direct strike, stagger, then fire back with a single shot that destroyed an entire artillery position. The precision was terrifying. It wasn't random destruction. It was targeted and deliberate. Then came the most ruthless tactic Varek had ever seen. The humans didn't just attack the trenches head-on, they funneled the alien troops into choke points using controlled bombardments. Those who tried to retreat found their paths already blocked. It was like the humans had drawn the battlefield before the fight even began. Every alien caught in those kill zones was cut down in seconds, their bodies falling in the same mud they had sworn to defend. The screams filled Varek's cums until static replaced them. He fought with everything he had, pulling wounded soldiers to cover, firing until his weapon overheated. But for every alien that survived, 10 more were lost. By the time the humans withdrew, the fortified line was gone. All that remained was a field of shattered walls, burning craters, and silence broken only by the crackle of flames. That night, Varek sat with the few survivors around a dying fire. No one spoke of victory. No one spoke of hope. They all knew the truth now. There was no defense strong enough, no plan clever enough to stop the humans when they decided to break you. And deep inside, Varek feared that tomorrow they would come again. The survivors were ordered to regroup at a distant ridge, far from the last battlefield. Varek walked with them, each step heavy in the cold morning air. The ground was still littered with smoke trails from fallen ships, and the wind carried the faint echo of gunfire from somewhere beyond the hills. They were retreating again, and every soldier knew it was only a matter of time before the humans found them. At the ridge, scouts reported no sign of pursuit. Command tried to give another speech about holding the line, but Varek barely listened. His mind was on the faces of the humans he had seen, how they fought, how they refused to break, how they moved like a single living thing. Every alien war he had known before this one seemed small now, almost like practice for what humanity could unleash. The attack came at sunset. No warning, no build-up. The humans struck from 3 sides at once, each squad moving with the same relentless precision. They didn't waste ammunition. They didn't fight for show. Every shot, every step, every movement was part of a larger plan that Varek couldn't see until it was too late. It wasn't just soldiers they were facing, it was a force of nature. Given form, Varek fought harder than he ever had, not for victory, but to survive one more moment. He pulled comrades from collapsing bunkers, returned fire into the growing darkness, and watched the humans advance with terrifying calm, even when the aliens broke and fled. The humans did not chase recklessly. They tightened the noose, cutting off escape until the battle was over. By the end, the ridge was theirs, and the survivors were too few to matter. As the humans gathered their wounded and moved on, Varek remained in the mud, staring at the sky. He realized something then: humans did not fight because they enjoyed war. They fought because, when forced into it, they refused to lose. Their strength wasn't in their weapons, their speed, or their numbers. It was in their will, and that was something no alien army could prepare for. When the war finally ended, Varek carried the memory of every battle, every face, every sound of human war. And when young soldiers asked him what it was like, he always gave the same answer. No alien was ready for the brutality of human war, because until you've faced them, you can't imagine what it truly means.